This time we'll call the March 20th, 2026 meeting of the Wilson County Planning Commission into order. Anyone wishing to give testimony before this board today, if you would, please stand and raise your right hand. I hereby affirm the testimony I give today to be the whole truth, so help me God. Say I do. Thank you. We need to approve the minutes from the February 20th meeting. Do we have a motion? Have a motion by Mr. Renfro.
Second.
Second by Ms. Weathers. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion will carry. We have no old business on our agenda today to deal with, so Christopher, I think we can move straight into the site plans.
All right. First item on your agenda is site plan for the Pina and Mendez Auto Corp signed. This is located at 1928 Murfreesboro Road. Staff has been working with them, and with technical corrections, staff can recommend approval. This is, it's going to be a business sign for, I believe, a car lot is what he's kind of trying to put out there.
Okay. All right. Do we have anyone here today to represent this case? Do we have any questions from our board?
No.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve. Based on
Approved
recommendations.
by Mr. Renfro, subject staff recommendation, second by Mr. Noakes. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion will carry. We'll move on to the site plan for Prologis signage.
Yes, the next thing is site plan for Prologis. This is at 135 Logistics Drive. This is a new monument style sign. Site plan meets requirements. Staff can recommend approval.
Okay. Do we have anyone here today to represent this case? Yes, sir. Please come forward and state your name for the record.
My name is Luis Figueroa.
Okay. And what do you want to tell us today, sir?
I'm just here to answer any questions or, anything you guys need. I'm just here.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
We have anyone else wishing to speak on this case today? We have any questions from our board?
Yes, sir, just one.
Yes, sir.
This approximate location in the photograph as I pass it down, I'm assuming is where I drove past looking at that. Just for clarity, just on this photograph, if there's a board sign, temporary, is that about where it's going to be?
Can I see the photo?
Oh, yes, sir, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, that's temporary. That's just,
But is that going to be close to locations? Close?
so I have here so this is where it's going to be, just beyond the cul-de-sac.
Yes, sir.
here.
Everything looks good out there. I was just wondering if it's going to keep to this consistency of what's there.
Right.
Yes, sir.
You good, Mr. Renfro?
I am, yes, sir.
I'm not sure. Any other questions from our board? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion to approve from Ms. Weathers to approve, subject staff recommendation. Second by Mr. Renfro. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed? That motion will also carry. Site plan and building height variance, Project Crossroads Building 1. Christopher?
Yes, sir. So site plan meets requirements. Staff can recommend approval. Sites will have to be readdressed to Logistics Drive prior to construction documents being submitted. Staff will note that this site plan and the following plan are both tied to a $75,000 payment to the county for a signal installation. This payment will be required prior to the issuance of a land disturbance permit per the master plan that was approved on 2/16/2026 by the County Commission. The height variance in question, that is under this board's purview to approve that. The standard height for commercial districts are 35 feet. Typically, those are addressed in the rezoning process. On this, it was not. So they are asking for a height increase on these structures as part of the design criterion, which this board does have the authority to permit.
What are they asking for though?
It is up to 40, it'd be a 10-foot variance. It's 45-foot height for these structures.
A 10-foot height variance.
Yes, sir.
Why, Christopher? What is the
Why?
reason for?
I mean, it's just in keeping with what general warehouses, I did not ask the direct question of why they needed the additional 10 feet on these, but The other buildings directly across logistics have similar variances. Those were done during the rezoning process. This developer just chose to do them at the site plan phase.
This does have to go through the fire marshal, get fire marshal approval.
Yes, all site plans will be submitted, and before a building permit or a land disturbance permit can be stamped off on, those plans get reviewed by the fire marshal and get a letters of correction.
So WEMA has to approve all this before it goes forward.
Yep, they're involved in both the land disturbance process and the vertical construction part.
Thank you. Who do we have here to represent this case today? Yes, sir.
I'm Jim Lukens, and yeah, the height variance is just typical height for a warehouse facility.
Okay. Has it been submitted to the fire marshal? I'm just asking, has it been done yet?
Yeah, fire marshal's seen it.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else here to speak on this case today? We have any questions from our board?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Renfro?
Chris, this one's actually directed for you.
Okay.
You said the properties across the street got the 10-foot variance already? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they got their variances as part of their rezoning approval.
10 feet, though.
Some of them were 15 feet. A couple of those structures are 50 feet in height.
I
And the
was
one,
assuming that the reason they want this extra height is for a greater sight distance, or is it because it's behind the buildings?
I think it has to do with the way they design mezzanines in these structures. I think it's an internal thing, not a visibility thing from the road.
Yeah, it's for the clear height inside the building plus the structure.
I guess it. So it'll be attached to the main structure then?
Yeah, just the structure will be that high. I think it's 48 feet that we had asked for.
48 feet? Oh,
So it's not 10 then? Did I?
it'd be 13,
What is it, 35? So the 13.
13 feet.
13 feet, okay.
It's a very common height.
And it's a
for-
structural request, not a visual clutter-looking thing going on down through there that everybody keeps trying to get taller than everybody else for a visual site down the 840.
Yeah, no, we're not trying to get higher. We're just trying to, it's just standard height for a warehouse.
Okay, 13-foot variance. And one other question for you, sir, and Chris may have to answer this. I went out there and looked at this property, the road, and I know you're going to be coming in from the main warehouse road, Logistics Drive. But there's a dirt road there that's right off McCrary, where your entrance is, or where they've addressed these two properties, well, 3 and 4, but is, you're going to totally close that off?
Yeah, all access can be from logistics.
Now, you won't be using it for construction because the people on McQuarrie will be asking that question.
Everything off logistics, nothing
Everything, no construction entrance, no anything.
correct.
That is,
Sneak in and out, pick up trucks or anything else in the backside.
that is part of their master plan approval requirements. They can't have construction traffic or truck traffic off of McCreary
I
Road.
was asked by people that live there, so I wanted to make sure that that was clear and on the record. So, thank you, sir. That was it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from our board? Not, do we have a motion? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve subject staff recommendations from Mr. Noakes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Weathers. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed?
No.
Mr. Renfro will be a no, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That motion will pass by 7 to 1. Okay. Number 4, site plan and building house variance Crossroads, I'm sorry, Project Crossroads Building Number 2.
And, Mr. Chair, that was, I've got 8 to 1 on that. You've got 9 members here. Okay.
Okay.
Ms. Nichols is in over here now.
You've got what? Is there
Eight-
9 of us?
8 to 1, there's 9 of you here now.
I probably didn't count myself, Christopher.
Oh, you didn't count Jody. She showed it.
Oh, she hides down there pretty good.
She's right here.
Can't see her. I'm
Behind my
sorry.
bucket head, so
That's okay.
That's actually what it is.
This is site plan and building height variance for, this is Project Crossroads Building 2. The site plan does meet requirements. They are also asking for that same 13-foot height variance on this structure. Staff can recommend approval. Sites will have to be readdressed to Logistics Drive prior to the construction documents being submitted. Staff will note that this site plan and the previous plan are both tied to the $75,000 payment to the county for a signal installation. This payment will be required prior to issuance of a land disturbance permit per the master plan that was approved on 2/16/2026 by the county commission. And just for clarification, that $75,000 that I mentioned, that is a combined fee. It's not a fee for each site plan. I just wanted to reiterate. It is a
Red light at the entrance to Logistics.
that's what I believe it's intended for. It's just traffic improvements at that specific intersection is how it's stated in the funds.
Okay.
But I do believe the intent is for a red light, but it is earmarked for traffic improvements at that specific intersection.
So, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir, Mr. Ash.
So, Christopher, who does that payment go to?
That payment is going to be held in escrow in the county finance office. It'll be paid directly to the county. It'll be put in an earmarked reserve fund, and it'll be up to the county commission to come up with the remaining funds or the match in this case to install the signal or whatever improvements they deem necessary.
Maintain the maintenance to it, right?
The county road commission will have the authority to operate and maintain that light. Yes, sir.
Been in front of them, Mayor, I guess.
Has what been in front of them? What was the question?
It's just $75,000 proposal been in front of them, and they're fully aware of all this.
I don't know if they're aware of the 75,000. I do know that there's been conversations with Commissioner Evans of that district and the road commission about an agreement for an improved traffic signal at that. And this was the first step to that, was getting some of those funds locked down. There is an expiration date on these funds. The county, once these funds are received, the county has 3 years to utilize them. So that process will probably start shortly after we get that funds to find additional funds to actually construct the intersection improvements.
That answer your question, sir? Okay. Who do we have to represent this case here today?
Jim Lukens, this building's right next to the one we just went over, the Sharon Truck Court. Same thing with the height variance, just typical warehouse height at 48 feet. And we're in agreement with all the conditions.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on this case today? Any questions from our board?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, is this 150K total?
No.
Did I hear
No.
plural?
I tried to reiterate that. It is a $75,000 K total. Both buildings are
Together.
tied to the same construction documents the way they've laid out the site, so it'll be one payment when they do land disturbance for both structures.
Thank you, sir. That's all.
I believe that's how they're going to submit.
Any other questions from our board? Do we have a motion?
Well, I've been a strong proponent of the light, so I'll make a motion to approve it.
Sure.
Subject staff recommendation.
We have a motion to approve, subject staff recommendations by Mr. Ash, second by Mr. Woods. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed? That motion will carry 8-1. Mr. Renfro being a no vote. Okay. Site plan, samples repair building addition.
This site plan for Samples Repair Building Addition located at 3394 Highway 109 North. With the developer's representative's agreement with compliance of facade screenings and paving requirements, staff can recommend approval. We did get updated plans that met the facade or the paving and landscaping requirements. The developer's representative said they're still in the works with the facade requirements, but they do agree to our minimum requirements on that structure.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Warren.
Yes, sir. I'm Jerry Warren with Warren and Toggle Civil Engineering. We're representing Tim and Valentina Samples, who own Samples Repair. And as Christopher said, we have discussed the comments regarding the facade with them yesterday and with their architect, and we're just working out how to do that, but we're in agreement with those comments.
You're in agreement to make it work.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this case today? Do we have any questions from our board?
No, sir.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion from Mr. Renfro to approve, subject staff recommendations. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Neal. All those in favor vote aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion will carry. We're now ready for the,
Thank y'all.
thank you, Mr. Warren. Now ready for the preliminary for the Denny subdivision at Vista Road and Flatwoods Road.
Sir, this is a preliminary plan of the Denny property subdivision. This is 12 lots located at the corner of Vesta Road and Flatwoods. That's map 137, parcel 8, since it does not have an address at present. I do need to point out that the plat may be subject to further sinkhole mitigation measures and potential critical lot designation after a more detailed technical review by the county stormwater department. This does meet all other preliminary plat requirements. Staff can recommend approval, but at the time of a final being submitted, there could be some additional notes required on these plats due to the copious amounts of sinkholes that were found out on the property.
Have to be denoted and approved by the stormwater.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Jim Carmen representing this project. We have no issues with what planning staff has brought up, and be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on this case today? We have any questions from our board?
Yes, sir, just a couple. Is this property right across from that log cabin that's down Flatwoods, right off of Vesta?
There is a log cabin that sits on the other corner.
Right where the scale is, right there, I guess?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There is a log cabin
Just
right
to
in
get
there.
myself
Yes.
oriented and make sure
That is the correct location.
and these are residences?
Yes, these would be for single-family residences.
Good deal. Okay. No more questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? We have a motion.
Move we approve.
Have a motion to approve subject staff recommendations
Yes, sir.
from Mr. Renfro. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Ms. Weathers. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion will carry. Thank you, sir. We're now ready for the preliminary for the Beckhaven Reserve Version 2.
All right, this is Beckhaven Reserve Version 2. This is located at Loman Road, and it includes property 10740 Central Pike. It's 69 lots, and this is map 100, parcels 52.00 and 51.10. We did get corrections back from the developer, and Gladeville Utility reached out. The plans are still lacking a little bit, but with the water connections clearly shown onto Loman Road, Seven Springs, and Quad Oak subdivisions per Gladeville Utilities District letter of availability that was issued, staff can recommend approval. At present, the plan that we have only shows the connection to Central Pike, and Gladeville is requiring loop connections onto those 3 roads.
Is the only difference in what's been before us before on this project the connectors?
Well, the only project that's been before you before was the original sketch, which was just for zoning criteria, and this is their first submittal of it, a preliminary.
But the only amendment is, only thing is the Gladeville.
That's the only thing that's outstanding for the preliminary requirement.
Okay, that's my question. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So we did have some slight tweaks. We do end up having 6 lots on Loman Road versus more lots in the internal loops. But yes, the largest difference is that we appeased those neighborhoods and we got rid of those connections.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, of course. Oh, sorry. Alex Becker. I'm with the development team. Happy to answer any questions.
Anyone else here today wishing to speak on this case? Yes, sir. Please come forward and state your name for the record.
My name is Jim Schmidt. I live at 10,700 Central Pike, right next to the proposed entrance. And I've decided to make it my life goal that when you're living in a subdivision for 48 years like I have, and they want to put a road and an entrance right next to you, and I know the law is not on my side, but I think I should be told immediately when the subdivision is being planned. I was the last one to find out, as were the rest of the neighbors also. The property next to me, I didn't think was a sold deal yet. And that's the property that the entrance is on.
I don't know, are you talking about like whether or not it's been purchased?
Yes.
To my knowledge, I don't believe it's been outright purchased. I don't think they've closed yet, but I mean, we do have a letter stating from that property owner that's signed by them that the developer can represent them on all planning matters.
So is that appropriate?
That is the policy. Yes, sir.
Do you see why I'm saying that we should know? I mean, the road's going to be within feet of my yard. So we've gone from a 3.5 acre Tim Brook Farm subdivision to this entrance being right there. There's also a lot of safety concerns on Central Pike. You guys are building stuff everywhere, and if anybody would like to go through the stoplight at South Mount Juliet Road and Central Pike, take an extra half hour. Okay, and this is just,
Not argue that for a second, will you?
okay. I have some other issues. I'd like to know where the step system is gonna drain to in the drip system for this subdivision.
Get on your plat, sir.
It is, and I can speak to it.
Can you just tell me what color it is on your chart there?
Some of the soils are shown in green on our site, and we actually purchased another property. It's not part of this development, but it's across the street on Loman Road. We have some soils over there, and we purchased some taps in another existing development that had soils to spare.
Do you have any TDOT approvals or anything for that yet? For your step system?
T-deck approvals?
I'm sorry, TDEC. You're exactly right.
We have a will serve letter, not from TDEC, but through Wilson Water Authority, but we're pinning down all of that now. It's, later in the process, and with the moratorium and everything. I know that everything's kind of on pause there, so we're just.
I understand. And Christopher, the policy of the county is, other than doing the advertising that they do, you only put out signs on rezonings. Is that inaccurate?
We put signs out on rezonings, and then we also notify immediately adjoining property owners by snail mail for rezonings. Use by right development subdivisions do not get public notification other than the agenda being advertised.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I was right before. So,
There were no signs put up that I could see.
well, this is not a rezoning. This is.
I understand that. Yeah, I thought it was agriculturally rezoned, but I guess not.
It may have.
R1.
It's R1 rezone, which is rural residential. On the tax card, it may very well have had an agricultural designation, but that's a tax bracket designation, not a zoning designation.
I suspect it's been zoned since that way since the zoning ordinance was put in place in the mid-'70s.
Okay. So I'd like to ask, is there a drip system going to be used on that step system that's going to be in Walton's Grove?
Where's Walton's Grove?
Right across the street?
Yeah, Walton's Grove's the 400 or plus or minus home subdivision across the street on on Central Pike.
Yes, sir.
But no, we're not.
There's no connection
into that. And I do want to say I'm not, opposed, or I feel no way about notifying neighbors. I had actually put together a list of, contacts, assuming that was part of the policy, because I knew that it was for rezone. So, I mean, what you guys do with that, I certainly thought that it was public enough that, all those.
I just wanted to make sure we follow our own procedure.
Oh, yeah, no, of course. But, back in September, October, when Quad Oaks and Seven Springs packed this entire room, and, I was thrilled that we were able to come to, an agreement with them and, make those connections to their neighborhoods, not necessary. But, again, so, yeah.
Mr. Smith, continue, please. I'm sorry.
We are planning a step system in this new subdivision.
That's correct.
Is it going to be pumped to Pine Creek?
So I'll speak to it. So my understanding, ultimately, we will tie into the Logue Road plant. I believe that while we will put in drip lines on the limited soils here and, in the parcel across the street, more likely than not, those will be reserve. But ultimately, yes, the Logue Road plant, which is I don't know, Chris, is it 300,000 gallon? 300,000 gallon per day step system over on Logue Road, which has plenty of.
But you have to have the return lines.
Yeah, of course.
Will be conventional back to that property, correct, Chris?
So, yeah, my understanding is it would go, the effluent would go to Lowe's Road, and then there'll be return lines that go back to be able to use those.
It will be filtered at Logue Road and returned back to the soil sites denoted on the plat.
Well, soil sites within that whole treatment facility area.
Okay. Okay. Does that answer your question,
So
sir?
no step system itself, the drip, some of it will be on site.
Okay. Mr. Smith,
Okay, well, there is a drip zone on, in Walton's Grove,
yes, sir.
and we live across from it. And they have a creek that's right there,
Yes, sir.
and we can smell it. Okay, so I don't have much faith in step systems. I hear it's overloaded also.
Well, there are step system issues, and currently there's a moratorium, self-imposed moratorium from Wilson County Water Authority on approving anything new. They're in the process of trying to rectify some of the problems they have, and they're not even accepting or voting to approve anything until they get those issues corrected. I can't tell you whether that would be tomorrow or this time next year or the year after. I don't know the answer to
Is
that.
that the storm drain department, part of it?
I'm sorry.
The storm drain department that's right here?
No, sir, this is Wilson County
Different?
Water Authority.
Okay, that's the water
It
authority.
oversees step systems in Wilson County.
Okay. Another issue is the flooding in that area. It is an extremely flooded area. I've been there for 48 years. I've had to rip up the carpet twice in my lower house because of the flooding. And I want to see the elevations they're going to do on that property next to me, because I think that's going to back me up even more.
Those,
Have road and drainage plans been submitted yet, Christopher?
no, those get submitted after a preliminary plat approval. That is the next step. We get those to review. Those will get submitted to our road commission and our stormwater office for review prior to you all ever seeing a final plat.
And they are public record for anyone to
Yep.
view.
Once those get submitted, they're open to the public for review. I can't tell you the timeline that those get submitted. If a preliminary plat is approved, the developer has 3 years to get a final plat in front of this board for approval. So that's how long those rights get vested in. So they could submit the construction documents at any time between the approval and a submittal of a final plat. That review process takes roughly 3 to 4 months. So, I mean, they can't wait till the last minute, but there's a due diligence process of the review of those. And once those get submitted, you're more than welcome to look at those, and that'll show all existing grades with what proposed grades they have throughout the development.
Yes, we have had problems with flooding forever. And of course, I thought that was all the wetlands behind us. That's what we were told when we moved in. Now it just looks like,
There is a
be called now of,
There is a blue line stream. There is a blue line stream on the property that is waters of the state. In the review of the cluster development, we had the developer pull all the lots outside of that, so they're not directly affecting the blue line stream with any sort of disturbance. They're not going to have to disturb that with their existing design plan. As far as additional water runoff from the development, that will be thoroughly reviewed in the construction documents. But I can't speak to what currently goes on out there. But any additional influx of that has to be handled per stormwater design standards.
yeah, that's my next stop is to them on this issue.
Okay.
Because-
And I feel like, at least at this point, you could go to our planner's office and get a copy of what's proposed. We do not have the road and drainage plans.
No, they're not been submitted.
And that will be a process, but I'm sure they'll accommodate you and let you look at all of that stuff when it actually gets here.
Yeah, okay.
This is a preliminary step, and they're not required to have that data at this point, so.
I mean, I understand that anybody's able to sell their property to anybody, but I just feel that the homeowners that are directly adjacent to a road that's being built there should be notified. And I know that's a state law, am I correct? Not a Wilson County law?
In reference to,
In reference to who should be notified if a road's gonna run right almost through your property.
I don't know.
Are you asking if there's one existing, or
I guess I want to know is why wasn't I notified?
well, it was as far as the road being there, it's just a subdivision development by right. They're not asking for anything that a property owner of any R1 property couldn't couldn't do. As far as the road construction, it's just part of subdividing that tract. If you wanted to, I guess, continue down that trail to maybe make sure future property owners in the county were notified if a public infrastructure is being next to them.
My new life goal.
Yeah, that could be a county process. That does not have to be, I mean, you can very well make it a state law. It could be a statewide law, or the county could initiate a policy where if there's new infrastructure.
Okay, so the county could do something with it.
Yeah, absolutely. We can,
There is no state law that says you,
not for public roads, not to my knowledge. I know TDOT has a due diligence
I wouldn't mind if a house was something going on. I mean, I'm not against the subdivision.
yes, sir.
I'm against the entrance onto Central Pike.
Yes, sir.
Right next to me and also right across from Walton's Grove. So it's going to be a disaster right there. And I know there are other ways. I mean, I think the wetlands thing is just a gimmick because I think it cost them more to go and put the entrance over off Loman Road.
Well, there are rules in place to protect the wetlands and the blue line streams. Now, to tell you it couldn't be done, that's way above my pay grade, sir.
Okay, that's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
And I will say, I know Leslie's been in touch with y'all, and I'm happy to, as we do progress, if we, get the approval today, I'm happy to share everything. I honestly wish that we had connected sooner, because I do think that we would have purchased your parcel. At this point, it's too late to incorporate into the development, but I know that Leslie's actively looking for someone who's interested.
Because I can't live there with this scenario. I mean, I'm going to move. It's ridiculous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have anyone else here? If you would, I'm sorry, please come forward and state your name for the record, ma'am.
My name's Jennifer Stahoviak, and I have a couple of questions about traffic.
Yes, ma'am.
Any of you, which all our neighbors here, but any of you that travel Beckwith Road and Central Pike, you know that is so dangerous. To put two entrances directly across from each other is going to be a nightmare. What do you propose to do with that?
You have that.
I don't have that image.
If you would,
up
just
there.
finish asking. We'll let him.
Oh, okay.
You would go ahead and ask your question.
And then as far as the flooding, that is a big concern. When they put all of the houses in at Walton's Grove, that made the people on Beckwith and on up Central Pike down to where their proposed entrance is going to be, it floods big time. And it becomes a big issue for the people that live there. And if you're not driving out there and you're not living there, you don't see what happens. It gets there, it gets really fast, and then it goes away. So there is a lot of concerns, not just about the road coming out there, but as far as the whole thing and the wetlands being there.
All right, thank you. You want to address those, Mr. Buck?
So as I believe Chris mentioned, we're working with TDOT, so ultimately we'll have a pretty significant decel lane similar to what is at Walton's Grove. As far as traffic and everything goes, I mean, I live over in Belinda City. I drive that way all the time. I hear what everyone is saying about the traffic on Central Pike. We did do a traffic study, and, ultimately this is it's a small development in comparison to Walton's Grove or the 300 or 400 home subdivision that will go in next to it in the next few years. I know that's Mount Juliet City, it's not Wilson County, but ultimately there is a lot of growth on Central Pike, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think TDOT would be the ones to determine whether or not there need to be traffic lights and that kind of thing.
Right.
Central Pike is a state road. The traffic study does not warrant the improvements that they have at the front of this development for what they're providing. Our minimum standard for developments over 50 lots is a decel lane and a center turn lane. Our relationship with TDOT is fairly well, and they are willing to honor that minimum requirement regardless of the traffic study not warranting it. So we're getting additional improvements on the state route per our local agreements that TDOT does not specifically have to enforce, but are willing to meet our minimum standards, just specific to this development. As far as other improvements along Central Pike, I can speak to maybe some projects. but not all of them. I know Central Pike is in the process on the tip plan to be widened from the new interchange that's going to go in all the way to the intersection light. I'm not 100% sure if you keep heading east at that light, the scale of that widening off the top of my head, but Central Pike does have significant road improvement plans over the next 15 years.
As from Mount Juliet Road west.
Yes, from Mount Juliet Road west. I can't answer to Mount Juliet Road east off the top of my head.
Okay, all right.
Well, and I'll throw this out there too, with that new elementary school as well. I mean, that's just additional traffic every morning. So, I mean, I don't believe it extends quite that far. It doesn't, but I mean, and again, it's not your call, but I would certainly vote for that.
Central Pike certainly being overwhelmed by Stewart's Ferry being shut down right now.
Oh, yeah.
Bridge out at Suggs Creek. But Christopher, to try to get you a little deeper, do we know, or have we had any complaints, James, maybe you can answer this question, of any additional flooding problems that have been caused by Walton's Grove?
Not to my knowledge.
Sir?
Not to my knowledge.
You don't have any complaints on any of that?
I'd have to check the log, but nothing's jumping out at it.
If we can get him to look into that, ma'am, I don't know, so
We've had someone from the stormwater people has come out and met with us.
And it would be, I'm sure it's in the log. I'd have to check that log.
can you investigate that for us, please? That's the best we can offer right now, ma'am. Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this case today? Yes, sir?
My name is Justin Mahon, and I'm on the other side of the road. And when I look at where that road's going to go in, where I work, because I work from home, it's going to be about 15 feet from there, from the road just going by and by. So I got the extra noise, and then I got the possibility. What's going to keep cars from being able to go and hit my house that's so close? The lot isn't all that wide, so is there going to be a real big buffer zone and barriers put in place, or?
Where is your home, sir?
I'm on the other side, on the right side on this map of where the road is.
Like just immediate, like this tract right here?
Yeah.
You're on one side and he's on the other between the new road, is that what?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So your question was, how are we going to
Prevent, well, one, I got traffic noise that's gonna be there when I'm trying to work. And then also, what about like a driver going off the road, because there's not gonna be much buffer there. The lot's not all that wide.
How wide is that lot, Christopher? Do you know roughly?
Probably 125 feet. Oh, 150. Okay. It'd be 150 foot wide. I mean, they could center the road in that, and we have talked with the developer on that. I don't think the exact road location has been determined yet, because there's some TDOT standards that are also being required on them if Mr. Smith's property and, sorry,
Justin
Manning. If they were to develop, TDOT is requiring those parcels to access this new road if they were to ever be sold. And that's a unique requirement TDOT's placing on the developer. But if they centered the road, there would be a 50-foot strip in between your property and the existing road right away. And your property line would be roughly 60 feet from the pavement edge of the road. Not to say that a car can't go that far off the road, but I mean.
So now I'm getting increased taxes from road frontage based on TDOT?
TDOT is requiring, if you choose to develop your property, this developer has to put some sort of language in that allows any development of your property to access this road as opposed to going out onto Central Pike. Alex may be able to speak a little bit more to that, but it's that's what TDOT is requiring. Like, if you choose to subdivide your property in some form or fashion, you would have access to this road.
And Alex, this will be the primary entryway? I mean, is there, and this may be asking too quickly, is there any landscaping proposed?
I was actually going to mention that.
Okay, please.
I don't believe that we're required to do any sort of buffers or landscaping, but that is my intent. That's, certainly how I envision it, nice tree-lined street. I know I've spoken to it in the past. These are deeper lots, so as much natural tree buffers as we can leave. We're not trying to come in and bulldoze everything. Like, we really do want to keep as many trees intact as we can. And as far as the entrance goes, yes, I do believe that we would certainly run trees along that road of the entrance.
If that is a request, we tie landscaping to residential developments because we don't have a landscaping requirement when it's abutting a light zone district. If that is a request, that needs to be made part of, because one of the next steps also is this developer will have to submit an amenities plan for this development, and any of that streetscaping we would want to be included in that, so we can tie it to a letter of credit to ensure that it actually gets done. But if that is a request, that needs to be made part of the next part of the approval. Staff reviews open space plans, but the board can make streetscaping a part of that primary entrance, a requirement if the developer would agree to that.
Can you tell me how far y'all's houses actually sit off of Central Pike?
About 250 feet.
Yeah,
That's pretty close, okay.
yeah. We're pretty deep off of Central Pike, but now I'm gonna be really close on the side there.
The other thing is, I believe in the design, there is a pool, racquetball court, all this kind of stuff going to be very close to my side of the property, from what I understand.
Pickleball, it's a pickleball court.
It'll be actually on that lot, that stretch that goes back there to where.
You can see it in the.
So I'm going to have to listen to, hey, Mom, watch me.
You can come play pickleball though. Everyone loves pickleball.
How much does it cost me?
But as far as the landscaping street buffer, we're happy to do that. That was our intent anyway. So if y'all did want to make that a stipulation,
Okay.
certainly do that.
All right,
Yeah, the rest of my concerns are the water, which has already been addressed, so.
Yeah.
thank you, sir. Anyone else?
There is a major creek behind our house. I'm also curious what they're going to do about that creek.
Well, the creek will be addressed in the road and drainage plans, and certainly that will be made available to you at that time, sir.
Yeah, and we have, I believe they were out there last week. We had a more in-depth topo study done of Central Pike, which was required by TDOT, and I know that they looked at the parcel itself. So identifying things, even if they're not blue line streams, like the stream, I know what you're talking about behind there. I don't know. I'm not a civil engineer, but we have a really good one who will, manage all that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this case today?
Can you repeat your name again?
Yeah, Alex Becker here. I have some cards.
I think you've got one. Oh, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Luke Myers, 575 Corinth Road. I hate to kind of harp on this, but when I started doing the math and I looked at the agenda today, we're looking at, and I know that I'm getting ahead of myself and looking into the next two categories, we're looking at 236 extra houses in the Gladeville area. Just the Gladeville area. Everything on this agenda today has something to do with Gladeville. Okay? If in a way that's a good thing, but also in a way that's a bad thing. It means that we are hyper-focusing on one area when it comes to construction, whether it's commercial or whether it's residential. I don't think that anybody is technically against growth as long as it is regulated correctly. This plan right here, in my opinion, shows completely the opposite of good regulation. You figure if there's 236 more houses, that's 472 more vehicles on the road. Central Pike, Stewart's Ferry, Lowman Road, Beckwith, none of them are equipped to deal with the traffic that we have as of right now. We sure as heck do not have the infrastructure available for even more. If you add just the 472 more vehicles, you got to start saying, okay, well, who's moving into these areas? The majority of people moving into these areas are not county residents. These are out of county residents. So in my opinion, we're not taking care of the county residents. What we're doing is we're essentially making it better for the transplants that move in here. Now, that might not be a real nice thing to say, but it's kind of the honest thing to say. And with those people moving in, we have to assume that they're going to be bringing children. Well, we just made a new elementary school on Central Pike. It was an obvious needed thing because of the amount of kids that are in our school system as of right now. But when we start to look at this subdivision and further subdivisions, all we're doing is just filling the school. So what's the next plan after that? Make another school. So the cycle continues. And I think that the majority of people that I've talked to are not against the growth, but they are against out of control growth. This right here represents that. This says, plain and simple, that we prioritize subdivisions over maintaining any kind of preservation of our county that we have. Now, I have no right at all to tell somebody what to do with their land, and I am not by any means trying to say that at all. I just think that if we don't start preserving some of our land, then all we're going to do is turn into Davidson County, which I don't think anybody in this room technically wants to be Davidson County. If you want to know what subdivisions look like, on top of subdivisions, on top of subdivisions, go to Nashboro Village, go to Hermitage, go to Donaldson. I don't think anybody in this room wants that, but we continue to go down that path, in my opinion. Another thing, when you got to start asking, you got to start saying, okay, a subdivision, why are people even moving into the Gladeville area? And they're moving, and it's obvious. You've got a great place to live. Everybody hears the rumors. Great school systems, great community, great people, right? That's the same thing over and over again when you talk about Gladeville. So they're moving because they want that lifestyle. They want that country lifestyle. They want that small town USA feel. Every time we do this, we're eliminating that. Every single time we make another subdivision, and this one right here is, correct me if I'm wrong, 69 lots, correct? Is that 69 lots? The next one is 87 lots. The next one after that, 80 lots. I just heard the other day, we'd already approved another one at the corner of Fellowship and Stewart's Ferry, 40 lots. At some point, you just got to start saying, we are ruining our way of life. Everybody that already lives in that area, their way of life is getting ruined. And that's concerning to me because I've lived in that area my entire life. I've seen what used to be nothing but cattle farms turned into subdivisions. And it's disturbing at best. And this is kind of going off topic, but I did read a quote the other day, and it said, true wealth is measured by what you protect. And it kind of resonated with me with this hard. Because in my opinion, we're not doing a very good job of protecting what we've got. I think we're doing a really good job of selling out the dirt underneath our feet. Unfortunately, like I said, growth is part of it, but slow growth is not even in the options right now. It's just like we're in a foot race to see how many people we can overload into an area as fast as we can. And it's not doing anything but putting more strain on what lack of infrastructure we obviously have. Our roads, especially Lowman Road, Posey Hill, Beckwith, they haven't been widened ever. They're 2-lane roads, country roads. They've never been widened. The best remedy I've seen for a subdivision, even off Stewart's Ferry, was an 80-foot turning lane. That's it. It goes right back to a 2-lane road right after that 80-foot turn lane. And it's like, that's not your answer. Not for the amount of people you're putting in this area. And we just continuously do it. So it would be different if I was getting a lot of people that were saying, hey, we're more, we're very pro more subdivisions. Nobody I've talked to is saying, oh yeah, we want more subdivisions. We want more commercial. And like I said, when I look at the agenda today, everything has to do with District 12, 13, 14. Nothing else on this agenda has anything to do with any other district. And
it's that way on a regular basis.
Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Luke.
Go ahead.
I live there. I've been there longer than you just because I'm older than you.
Yep. Yep.
The reality of it is, these people are dealing with existing zoning. They've asked us or the county commission for nothing. They have land use rights. Now, we don't create land use rights on a county basis. If somebody wants to run for Congress and get a bunch of that stuff changed, I will support them. Just give me your name. I promise you I'll support them. But we do have to work within the confines of what we are giving. There's another development on this, down this agenda, part of what you're talking about. This body turned down continuously, time after time after time. They filed a lawsuit, and the chancellor directed us to approve it. We were told by the court system it had to be approved. We have limited options. Obviously, we have no control over state roads whatsoever. Christopher and them do an excellent job of communicating, but that's been in the last few years. It used to be hard to get a call returned. I can assure you, I feel 90% of the way you feel about all this, but we do have to work within the confines of what the law tells us to do.
I understand.
Now, anybody wants to run and change those things, I'll be your biggest supporter.
I understand. And I understand. I understand everything you're saying. I just know that this is where it all starts. Right here in this planning commission is where
it all starts.
Well, I'm saying the conversation. This is where the conversation about everything starts. That's why I'm here. It's because I don't want to catch this on the back end, after things have already been approved. And I understand this is just a preliminary. I understand that. But I think it does need to be said that, like you just said, the state is in charge of the roads. But the county, the people, the citizens of Wilson County are the ones dealing with the roads.
I agree.
So it's just, it's an unsettling fact, but it is a fact nonetheless. It's just one of those things where, like I said, growth is inevitable. Slow growth would be perfect. And everything on this agenda says fast growth, more people. It shows nothing about infrastructure, and I know that's not this body's job is to show anything like that. But we haven't in the area. We have not seen any kind of infrastructure update in ever. I mean, you live there, never.
Certainly hadn't kept up with the growth. No one.
No, and there again, I'm not saying that a subdivision one day is not an option. But until we get up to date on our infrastructure, I think that there's no way in the world that you can say, oh yeah, 69 more lots. That's a great idea.
Well, there are things that the road commission has to approve these, the utility districts have to approve these. They have to sign these plats before they become a reality. Wilson County Water Authority has to approve these things.
Understand.
And I couldn't agree with you more, but our hands are tied on so many of these things because we have no control of them.
I know, but you are in control of the rezoning.
They're not asking for a rezoning.
But it's a preliminary to work towards a rezoning.
It's already zoned. It's been zoned that way since the zoning ordinance was put in place in the mid-'70s.
So what is this zoned? R1?
R1 rural residential.
They are working off the rules in place for R1 zoning. They're not asking us for anything other than approve a use by right.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, R1 has, as far as like zoning lot entitlements, the county recently in December did make minimum lot standards in R1 go from 25,000 square feet to 40,000 square feet.
Correct.
So that in R1 districts, that did shrink the amount, or that did limit the density that could be in those districts as a use by right.
Right, but doesn't all of the other counties around us, don't they have a larger square footage of lot size on R1 versus us? Rutherford County, Sumner County.
Answer that directly because R1. Well, not all counties have R1. They're all named something different. But if you're trying to compare like zoning districts to zoning districts, like we have an A1 that's 80,000 square feet.
Yes.
Rutherford County also has a district that is, they have a 5-acre district in Rutherford County. I can tell you right now that based off the research, because I had to go down that rabbit hole, I think there's 0.02% of their parcels have that zoning designation. So and we have a agricultural preserve district in our county. It's 4-acre lots. It's A2 4-acre lots. It is on a voluntary basis because the county does not have the jurisdiction to go out and zone properties. They have to be at the property owner's discretion.
Which happens right here.
Right. I can let you know since we've instated.
But it's on an individual basis because I've looked at our land use plan from 2006. I've looked at it pretty thoroughly. That land use plan is expired at best. Like, I mean, nobody in 2006 could have ever anticipated the amount of growth that Wilson County has had in 20 years. There's no way in the world that that land use plan should be exactly what we go by as our gold standard.
There is another one.
We're working on another.
I do understand, yes, right.
It'll be in front of this body sometime in the coming months, next 2 or 3 months.
Right, but we are still going off of a 20-year-old land use plan. Even as of today, decisions are, so, and I understand that there is one being made. Thank goodness. I think that there's a possibility, you make a good argument that it needs to be happening more frequently than 20 years.
That is on the table also, and
Yeah.
we can address that as we go by.
Absolutely.
I'm not looking at it every 5 years.
I know I'm getting ahead of myself completely on that. So I don't want to discuss that.
Land use plan, this property was already rezoned. It was zoned this way from the inception of zoning in Wilson County.
Right.
And they're not asking us to change that.
Yep.
They're not asking the county commission to change that.
Right.
I do need to reiterate, just for public knowledge on that, like, since we went off on the land use plan a little bit, say the property is zoned R1, even if the 2006 or even the new land use plan, if it gets adopted, calls out for this property to be 2-acre lot minimums on the land use plan. If the R1 zoning designation still allowed 40,000 square foot lots, that's what the property owner would be entitled to.
Understand.
Zoning regulation is going to trump land use direction.
I understand that. I'm not debating that by any means. If that's what it was zoned, that's what it was zoned. I'm just saying that when you come to a decision, just because it says R1 does not mean that you have to say, okay, well then that means we have to put a house on every single lot that is R1, because almost every single part of Gladeville is either A1 or R1. But if you put enough R1s together, you become R3.
Well,
Pretty, I mean, well, I'm saying, I know, but what I'm saying is, like, you don't become the actual zoning. I'm just saying you put enough subdivisions in one area, and before you know it, you are a solid metropolis of subdivisions. I just don't, I hate to say it, there's just not one person I've talked to that says, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. That sounds exactly like what we want for the future of the Gladeville area.
With people who are against growth, but we do have boundaries we have to work in. Mayor Jennings is going to give us an update on another lawsuit right there in Gladeville that we're currently under right now, where we turned something down.
Also preliminary.
Yep. Like I said, I know this is just preliminary. I just think that some of the things that I pointed on just needed to be said.
Thank you.
So thank you for y'all.
Yes, sir.
Hi, little buddy. Give me your 2-sentence definition of slow growth. I've been trying to find it ever since I've been up.
I'll give you one sentence. One.
Call on Luke, okay.
What I mean by slow growth is, let's just say a subdivision. Okay. If a subdivision goes in and it does not impede on the surrounding area, then that would be what I would consider slow growth. And when I say that, I mean, I'm actually just pointing to our infrastructure and our residences that already live in the area. I'm not in the mood to tell somebody that's lived there for 40 years, too bad. You know, I just, in my mind, if I've got to prioritize, I'm prioritizing what I've got in the area versus what I'm going to get in the area. That's it.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this case today? Mr. Young?
I think that, Ken Young, 1221 Shopsburg Road, I think this project here is going to go in the Logue Road facility. Has there been an operating permit modification approved for this? Okay, it hasn't been. It was submitted on the 10th of February, and it asked for 0.25 gallons per day of affluent flow. That's 67% more than the maximum ever approved in Rutherford County. 0.25 of an inch per day is 91 inches per year. it rains 50 inches here. So between the 50 inches of rain and the 91 inches of effluent they expect to be absorbed, that's 141 inches per year. It rains 100 inches in the rainforest. I don't know a thing about this, but here we go again. The 10th of February, the Water Authority asked for an effluent flow that is never going to work. It never has worked. It's 25% more than the Adenis handbook. It's 67% more than the maximum at Rutherford County.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak on this case today?
No introduction needed.
Perry Neal, 1000 Murphy Lane, Lebanon, Tennessee. There's been some discussion about zoning and the new future land use plan. I hope to discuss about that a little bit more. I just wanted to go on the record and saying, according to what I've seen in the future land use plan, it has a potential to take 70,000 acres in Wilson County and move it from A1 to R1. So, and I'm going to speak on that a little bit more later, hopefully. I do think this body, you know, there's been a movement here the last few years to get A1 zoning lot size increased, and that finally did happen. Seems like my memory, this body here made that quite a bit difficult. That Mr. Chairman, you and this body, y'all kept trying to take the A1 acres from 80,000 back down to 60,000. Was that not done? It didn't pass, but was that not tried to do? Or maybe it was passed here. Refresh my memory on that, please.
It's been here two different times.
Right.
The last time our recommendation, our
suggestion, right,
was to make A1 lot 60, acre and a half. 60.
So my question is, you seem to be saying as a body that y'all can't do anything about the density, and yet when something comes out of the planning subcommittee or whatever about making A1 and R1 larger, y'all seem to want to go smaller with it.
Well, the county commission had final say.
I understand that.
It was kept to where A1 is, 80,000 square feet.
Right, but this body here had a motion to try to take it down smaller, yes or no?
We didn't have a motion. We had a suggestion.
Suggestion, okay.
We're on the same page.
Right, okay. I wanted to clarify that for the record.
It had been 40 all this time.
Right, and it was moved up to 80.
Up until a couple of years ago, it'd all been 40.
Right.
And less if you had the right situation.
Right.
If you had a step system, it could have been, or sewer, you could have went to 25,000.
Right.
Prior to.
Okay. But anyway, I just think that the people, and I just wanted everybody to know that the future land use plan, which I've tried to be very involved with, and I've got a map, and I want to discuss that in detail later. I do think that it's going the wrong direction that people want as far as that. You know, it may be too late for Gladeville. I live in the east end of the county, and I don't mean this to be rude, but I don't want my end of the county to be the next Gladeville. I don't mean that to be rude. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't want any. Anyone else wishing to speak on this case today?
I'll wrap things up. I can't necessarily speak to the TDEC application with Logue Road. I'm sure Chris could do a better job, and wastewater is not up for discussion. I know Mayor Hutto knows I could go on about wastewater forever. But I certainly hear what everyone's saying. I do think that, our subdivision is it's not one of those stacked on top of each other homes on, tiny 0.1 acre parcels like you do see across the street in Waltons Grove. And I would suggest, even if it is not Wilson County, that maybe some of these people attend the Mount Juliet meetings when those much larger developments that are on the same road, which will produce significantly more traffic, we're talking 6 times the amount of traffic, let your words be heard there as well. But anyway, I appreciate your time and happy to answer questions if you have any.
Do we have anyone else wishing to speak on this case today? Mayor?
I just want to give it, Christopher had been asked about Central Pike widening, and we do submit, even though it's a state route, we do submit our request to them on behalf of our citizens. Central Pike widening from 2 to 5 lanes going from Old Hickory Boulevard to Mount Juliet Road. If you're coming from Nashville that way, it's 5.4 miles at 89 million. And then you'll go from Mount Juliet Road to Beckwith Road. That's where you guys are concerned. And that is widening from 2 to 4 lanes. That's 3 miles at a cost of $55 million. And then we'll go from Beckwith Road to 109 on Central Pike, and that is 3.9 miles, and that's $70 million. So those have been submitted. TDOT is a pay-as-you-go state, so that's where our backlog is. We're trying to get dollars from them to get these widened and get these roads taken care of. Beckwith Road from East Division to Highway 70, going from 2 to 3 lanes, also been submitted. That's 3.54 miles at 43 million as well. But those, we have submitted those and asked to have some help to get those done. Just wanted to kind of follow up. You said you didn't know if you were if it was on the list or not.
Anyone else wishing to speak in this case? We have any questions from our board?
One.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for being patient. I've waited an hour. This is, I guess, James, it's for James Vaden, but our blue water streams, we just had all this catastrophe, all these trees are down, some of these streams are blocked up. Who is responsible for maintaining the flow of that stream?
It would be up to each property owner adjacent to the stream.
So
as far as maintaining, the state will let a person go in there with hand tools. You can remove debris, blockage. If you want to use equipment, there's a permit that you have to.
So you got to get a permit.
It's an ARAC permit, water resource alteration permit, that has to be obtained to get in there to remove debris.
So if landowner A cleans his section out and debris goes down to the landowner B and gets blocked up down there, who's responsible?
It would be landowner B. Yeah.
So it's just and that goes to some of these water problems we're having, especially, I don't know how many blue water streams we got, several hundred, I guess. It's something we ought to think about in the future, because we hear all this stuff about the flooding, especially in that area. Some people are scared to get in there and clean them out, scared they're going to get in trouble. They don't even know that you got to get a permit to do it. And there's a lot of trees down right now on this water, and it's springtime's coming up. We're going to get some big rains, and I'm going to hear more about flooding, I'm afraid.
And the road department, we've removed debris at our bridges. If you've got a structure that's being threatened, you have a right to defend your property. You don't have a right to violate the ARAP, but those conditions change if you have property damage on what you can actually do. So just wanted to throw that out there. The trees and the debris in the creek is a good thing unless you're having a flooding. If you've got property damage, well, the debris jam is a problem. But, the debris in the creek slows that energy down. It's a good thing. That's how the creeks and the rivers over time change course. That's usually the debris that's pushing that energy one side or the other on that stream. Over time, the ash that's down that everybody's seeing in the creek is from the emerald ash beetle. We've got millions of ash trees, and every one of them are going to die.
I got 71 down.
Yep. So the ones along the creek, they're going to fall into the creek, and they're going to could cause problems. But in probably 15 months in the stream, it's going to be rotten. It's going to be breaking down, and the benthic macroinvertebrates in the stream that eat that will, have a feast.
So I was up at Crossroads this morning meeting with some people, and I just rode around through there. All those streams, come in three creeks right there feed. And downstream, I noticed there's some trees across some streams, and I'm just got me to thinking, just who can do that and who's responsible?
You got a log jam. Instead of trying to remove that debris, is take a chainsaw and just cut it up, let Mother Nature take care of it. It'll flow it on down. It end up in the Cumberland River. But, everybody can't do that. Of course, don't have the ability to use a chainsaw. Unfortunately, at the county, we don't have a public works. We don't get on private property, do any kind of work. because everybody in the county is entitled to the same level of services. Now, I do, through stormwater, we do volunteer cleanups. You know, we target problematic areas, so, you know, if you've got debris, certainly call stormwater and let us know. If we can get volunteers, we go out and try to help our neighbors.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James. Any other questions from our board?
Yes, sir. I got a couple. How big are the lot sizes that you have right now?
Roughly about a half acre. The ones on Loman Road are larger than that.
And then the blue you show there, is that the floodplain?
That is
right
the
now?
floodplain, yep.
100 or 500 or?
It'd be the 100. We don't regulate the 500.
Many of that are.
The,
Right? Yeah, there's a third. 0.3 something, there's a lot of them.
I believe the average is half an acre.
okay. And then like for these prelims, so flood studies are not involved in prelims?
We would require floods. We would require designated flood studies prior to preliminary being submitted if they were encroaching on existing floodplain with development or disturbance. We did work with this developer in the very pre-app meetings to pull those lots out of that area. That's one of the reasons you do not see a connection onto Loman Road through this. One, it was going to go right across the floodplain and a blue line stream. Not only the developer was probably in favor of that as well, but I'm not really in the business of trying to get the developer to provide infrastructure that the county is going to ultimately have to take care of if it were to wash out. So, I'm trying to do planned development in the county's best interest of that when it's submitted as well. But yes, there would be a flood study if they were disturbing any of that floodplain. But in this instance, they were able to pull everything back. I don't know if that answers your question on that.
Developer could come off the other road, build a bridge.
Yep. We would have required a flood study if that were in fact the case.
And that area is floodplain or wetland.
Yeah, the blue that you see on the screen in front of you, that is FEMA dedicated 100-year floodplain.
And just to reiterate what we went over in October with the connections to the other neighborhoods, those stub outs were intended to provide connections to future development, and that was recommended by planning, but because the neighbors did not want to see that, we removed those connections, which would have been the other connections.
Thank you.
You need a break. Okay. You got another one, Houston?
Sorry, I'm good.
You're good. Okay, Mr. Renfro.
Thank you, sir. You knew it was coming.
Yeah.
For you, I have so many notes here. Let's start from the beginning here. Mr. Becker, you said green, so I see drab military green, I see green, and those are homes. I'm assuming it's the not symmetric green area drawing there. So they just truncate at the line there. Is that what you're saying? Is it there's no rollover on the other side of the property line, that they just square off right there for your soils area? That's the way they're drawn. I know it's just a rendering, but.
These on this, yes, these are the soils on the side.
So you're going to put up some sort of blockage at the end of that soils area that's rolling over to the next property north towards Central Pike? That's there. And the reason I ask is it's just drawn with the property line straight through it like it's a cutoff.
That's just where we've identified soils. I don't believe.
You're not going to run soils all the way to the edge of the property line the way you've drawn this. Is that correct?
We're not that. I don't believe so. Can you speak to?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They look to me.
I don't know the buffer requirements for step systems. For a traditional septic system for soils areas, they have to be 10 feet off of any existing property line, and then, right. Step systems operate under a different regulation. They're reviewed and approved through TDEC, and the Water Authority maintains those. I don't know that exact buffer requirement. We rely on.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I wish
We do rely on the Water Authority when we get to that step in the development that it is designed to the minimum specifications that they require, and that they have all the state and federal permits required with that system. So we rely on that. When that signature happens on that final plat, the county is at that point, assuming that all those minimum requirements and all those records are on file.
We can only go by what we see, Chris, is what I'm saying.
Yes, I mean, it's, to answer your question, is it going to run all the way to the property line? I don't think that's feasible. It will have to be cut off before then, but there's not going to be a wall built to deter underground infiltration across property lines, if that's what you were asking.
Yes.
I can promise you that I don't think anyone is more thorough than TDEC.
Well,
especially these days.
I go on literal drawings.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And that's really it, Mr. Becker. So the rest of it are comments and questions from my colleagues and the community. So you're welcome to stand up there, but you don't have to.
Sure.
Comments from Mr. Schmidt all the way to Mr. Myers are very, very important to me. And a statement up front, there's a moratorium on building by one of our sister municipalities in East Tennessee. Don't have to state the name. It's in public record. And they stopped building because of controlled growth. My colleague has asked a very, very good question that I formulated an answer years ago too. And it's this: controlled growth, slow growth, define it any way you want, is have the infrastructure in place first. That's the definition. Is you don't have a road. We give you an example. There's a school right down here on that west side of the property that didn't have sewer, and it still hasn't. They had to truck it, or they were going to plan on trucking it. That's poor planning. There's no reason to build something and say they will come later. That's a movie, okay? So to my colleague's answer, the answer is build the infrastructure. We did it at 840. All of the building and all of the warehousing and all that had a thoroughfare, 4 lanes wide, interstate, 70 miles an hour, ready to get on with trucks and go. It was there. We don't do that inside of our walls in the counties. And they stopped it in East Tennessee and said, hold on, let's think about this. There was a statement made, and I'm going to disagree with Mr. Myers in a good way that'll agree with him. No right, he stated this, there is no right to tell someone what to do with land. Yes, there is. The zoning is in place for that. The building codes are in place for that. They can tell you what to do. I'm living in a subdivision, it doesn't have an HOA, but if I decided that I wanted a 7-Eleven on my property because I can make $5 million, this board and everybody else in the county is going to say, oh, no, no, no. That's my land. But you're not going to let me build a 7-Eleven on it. So yes, there is a way to say no. Now, we got judges that make a decision beyond sensibility, common sense, and other things. My opinion only, that override thought processes by these people that put their heart in it. So I'm looking at this moratorium on our East Tennessee group people. I look at the definition of what I think is slow growth, and it's an analogy to having a baby. It's that simple. You got 9 months to make a plan. You're going to build a nursery, you're going to have a part of the house changed over, you're going to order the food, whatever you're going to do to get ready for that, you get ready before it gets here. You don't go, oh, we're on the way to the hospital, where are we going to keep this kid? I've never heard anybody do that. We're going to build this subdivision. What are you going to do about the traffic? We're doing this backwards. Yep. We are doing this backwards, and it's all over the county. You can walk down the corner towards Smyrna. You can walk to Mount Juliet. And there was a comment about Mount Juliet. We're just a step away from Mount Juliet. All you got to start looking at is these subdivisions that look like salt boxes. I can't tell the difference except for somebody's grill or lawnmower out in the back from the next house down. And we keep doing that. Mr. Chairman, I know I'm on a soapbox here, but how do we do this? How do we stand for Wilson County and take care of the people that are here? I don't know, but I'll tell you this. I prepare as an engineer before I build. When I get a building ready, when somebody says I'm moving a new piece of equipment in here, is the water there? Yes. Is the electricity distribution in the building? Yes. Is it ready to go? I don't just put the equipment in and say, boy, I hope I can run an extension cord because maybe I can turn it on then. Got it prepped, got it ready, got it to go. Why can't we think like that? And I hear my chairman, and I know it's disappointing. is there's not a law in place that can stop it because of the people that are in legislation now that we vote in. You got to change the vote. You got to put in the people that will listen to you. That's all we can do. You heard our chairman. He lives out there. He's for that. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Renfro, I do respect your comments, but I would take that one step further to say that is everything he's proposing is done on a level that's not us. It's not us.
Go agree. Yes.
We have rules and regulations to follow. And to take it just a step further, even when 840 was built, there was no water and there was no sewer. And those two things have been chasing 840 since its inception.
That is agreed. Yes, sir.
So
my heart.
While his point is very well taken, that's just not the case a lot of times. And we have no control over that anyway. So anyone else with a comment from our board?
I can share my thoughts on that. I certainly agree with you and hear what you're saying. You know, with respect to this subdivision, we had to look at things like, you know, water capacity, wastewater capacity. So those things do have to be in place. When it comes to roads, yes, we had the traffic study done, and you know, this individual one, you know, it's a drop in the bucket in compared to some of these larger ones, these larger subdivisions, but the question ultimately comes down to who's going to pay for this infrastructure. And it's easier to pay for the infrastructure when you have an influx of new taxpayers, and the existing taxpayers don't want to be burdened with higher taxes to increase roads so that more people can come in. I don't necessarily have an answer. I don't know. I know me and the mayor, I shared my suggestion with the RITA bill. There are some implements in place for.
Quick comment
Yeah.
for you.
Please.
Mr. Becker, you guys are between a rock and a hard place like our board. I think your architectural group, engineers that try their best are at the beck and call of the customers, your clients that come. The property's there, they've sold it, they've done this, you're doing your job. So it's not a negative reflection on you guys, but somebody somewhere has to think. And our mayor's pushing all he can to try to get it controlled, but again, what are you gonna do? So
we need to keep our conversation specific to this specific project, I'm being told, so we need to move forward with it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any other comments from our board? If not, I'll call for a motion. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to be denied.
Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Noakes to deny. A second from Mr. Renfro. Well, you need to tell, we need to have a reason to deny.
The reason is the water condition out there. So land, I don't believe, my wife was raised in that area, and I know it's wet out there. And I've seen floods you couldn't get through all in that area, and that's the reason I'm voting against it.
Okay, we have a motion to deny from Mr. Noakes based on flooding concerns. Do we still have a second from you, Mr. Renfro?
We do. May I also offer a comment for reasoning? The reason I seconded is the infrastructure is very, very limited.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny. All those in favor of the motion, you'll be voting against the project, say aye. And I'm sorry, I need to do this differently. If you're to vote for the motion, if you would, please raise your right hand. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ms. Nicholson. Thank you. We have 4 votes. All those against, raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You are going to have 6 votes in either direction.
We have to have 6 votes to vote anything up or down, and this motion will fail due to lack of votes.
You've got 2 options from that result. You can either say that that motion fails, move the item on to the next agenda item. You have 60 days to approve any sort of subdivision plat. If you fail to approve or deny it at the next meeting, it's automatically approved. Or you can try to make another motion, which I don't know if it'll go anywhere. But if you fail to make any motion, it will be automatically approved after the conclusion of the next meeting. You can make a motion to defer it to the next meeting and see if you can come, because you're absent 2 members today. I know one is probably permanently out of pocket for a while. We may be able to get the other one.
Okay.
But you can make that motion to defer to the next meeting. If there is no action taken at the end of the next meeting for or against, the preliminary plat will be approved.
I'm being told to open the floor for another motion. Do we have another motion? Last chance.
Did I hear Christopher say motion to defer is up on the table?
Well, there is, no, nobody's made a motion to defer.
It's on the table.
I'm gonna have to ask my legal counsel, like, if they don't make a motion to defer, where do I go with no motion made?
You gotta take some type of action here today, either up, down, or defer.
Okay.
We vote both ways and neither one of them gets 6 votes.
Then I'd say somebody needs to make a motion to defer.
I'll make a motion that we defer it. Come in there, Woody.
We have a motion to defer to the next meeting, 30 days.
Yes, it has to be to the next meeting.
Okay, we have a motion to defer from Mr. Woods for 30 days or till our next meeting. Do you know that date, Christopher?
I do. It is,
Yes, 17th.
it's Friday, April 17th.
Okay, we have a motion to defer till Friday, April 17th. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Mr. Ash. All those in favor vote aye.
The step system will work when they put it.
All those in favor vote aye. Okay, thank you. We will hear this again April 17th. Thank you all for coming. Right now, we are going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll go back in session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Call the meeting back to order.
That might be a contention. They may make you move those back.
Christopher, we're ready for the preliminary for Berkshire Place Extension, is that correct?
Yes, sir. This is going to be a little unique, so I'll answer any questions you may have on it. This is a preliminary of the Berkshire Place extension. This is a preliminary of the Berkshire Place. It is a request for an extension. This is 87 lots on Posey Hill Road, being map 95, parcels 40 and 49. This was approved as an R1 cluster. So I'm going to try and walk you through the timeline to the best of my ability. Applicant is requesting an extension to their preliminary plat approval to allow additional time to submit a final plat for development. Per TCA 13-3.413, a development is granted a vesting period of 3 years from the date of local approval for a preliminary development plan. A vested property shall submit a final plat to be considered within that 3-year period in order to keep vested rights current for said development. This development was previously approved on March 22nd, 2024, and currently has vesting out to March 22nd of 2027. So they still have a year left on their vesting period for this preliminary. The developer at this time is requesting a 1-year extension to allow them up to March 22nd of 2028 to get a final plat approved by this board. There is no language in the Wilson County subdivision regulations that gives staff the authority to grant extensions. However, this board does have the ability to consider these requests per that state law. You all can grant extensions. The vesting is still fairly new on how it has been established and interpreted. It came out in 2022 is when that law officially came out and started changing the way plats were vested. But that state law does give this board authority to offer extensions. Now, if a preliminary development, they have 3 years to get a final approved by this board. If the developer fails to do so, the development would be null and void. It would lose its vesting rights, and the next submittal would have to be done with the zoning classification and designations that are in force at that time. This development was approved prior to any zoning changes by the county, so that is the reason they are asking for an extension. In the past, we've done developments such as this as a renewal, and you've seen them on there as a renewal. We cannot do that at this time because a renewal, we were just looking at it as a brand new development, restarting the time clock. I don't have that ability at present because the current development was approved under one zoning designation. We currently have different rules in force at this time, so they're asking for an extension on their previous approval.
We have never done this, is what you're telling me.
This is not done in the 12 years that I've been here. To my knowledge, I don't think my predecessor, Tom Rashear, had ever done one, and that gets you back 21 years. Now, before that, I'm going to be a little fuzzy, but I don't think there's ever been one done.
I doubt it. Okay. Okay. Who do we have here to represent this case today?
Good evening, everyone. Kyle Griffin, CSDG, 2305 Klein Avenue. Thank you for seeing us today. As Christopher stated, we are just asking for an extension for 1 year. We are in design on the final CDs. We anticipate submitting that in the next couple months. Timelines just aren't adding up to get everything approved and the final plat submitted and approved within the time that we have today. So we're asking for a little bit of grace there. If we absolutely had to, we could rush everything out and just, get that final plat to you guys as quickly as possible. But we don't want to rush through this. We want to make sure that our designs are thoughtful and well thought out and done very well. We got a little bit of a late start on this because we were chasing down easements to build the turn lanes that we agreed to build on Beckwith Road. So that kind of started our timeline back a little bit. We were not allowed to start designs until we had those in hand. Now that they are in hand, we are proceeding with final designs. So happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Where does this touch Posey Hill?
It doesn't. Posey Hill is to the north and out to the east.
That's where I was confused.
Did I say Posey Hill?
No.
No.
It's on here is Posey Hill.
Okay.
No, it's not you.
This property is a little weird. It was landlocked at one time, and it was always accessed and addressed off of Posey Hill. That designation has not changed,
I
but
just wanted to make sure I wasn't.
I don't think anybody accesses this property off Posey Hill anymore, but at the time that it was a working farm, that's how it was accessed.
Okay. But just so I understand, you've got a year from March 22nd to actually get all your work done.
Correct.
And you've had 2 years up to that date to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And you're asking us to extend that period for 1 year.
That's correct. There was a previous developer, a build-to-rent developer who had this property tied up with the owner. That is no longer in the equation. This is a for-sale developer who is now engaged with the sellers or with the owners of the property. So the BTR is out and a for-sale home builder is in. So that contract had to expire before they could get engaged and re-up the easements for the Beckwith turn lanes. So there's a little bit more history for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here today wishing to speak on this case?
Tommy Jones, Commissioner, 14th District, Wilson County. I'd urge this board to follow the rules that are in place and the timelines that were approved previously. And the main reason for that, if we go to bending and changing our own rules, this will be an every month occurrence. Once you start it, you can't close that door. And I wish we would just follow along. They've got a year. They've had two. It's nothing negative to y'all, but I just don't see the need to start changing the precedent of the way we do business. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on this? Any questions from our board?
Chris, on this map, where's Beckwith? He mentioned
Beckwith is directly to the west on this map. I believe it's oriented north. It's directly to the south on this map.
West is the direction, but to the bottom of the page.
Yeah. If you want, can you go back to
90 degrees is what you said.
Yeah.
Correct.
So if you see on that Berkshire Boulevard there where this development stubs into, Mr. Renfro, Berkshire Boulevard shoots directly west to the connection with Beckwith Road.
I'm just trying to orient myself because it makes sense with the way it's drawn.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from our board?
No, sir.
Mr. Jennings?
Yeah, I feel like I need to tell you, as you know, you heard Crystal say we hadn't had one of these before, so this is the one that will become your precedent. Whether you vote to grant it or whether you vote to deny it, this is the one that everybody else's request will be measured against. So, whatever you do, and I'm not trying to steer you either way, it's not my place, but whatever your decision is, support it with some type of facts so that if you get another one later down the road that deserves different treatment, you can distinguish between them. But if you just arbitrarily grant it or deny it, then you're pretty much going to be bound by precedential value.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Matt, one more thing.
We've closed public comment, if you don't mind. Any other questions from our board? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think we need a Pandora here. I really appreciate this design firm, but I'm going to vote to deny the request.
Based on?
Yes, that would be based on setting a precedent that we don't need to set.
Okay.
Because the existing rules are in place.
So based on the timeline?
Correct. The current timeline should stay.
Current rules are in place?
Correct.
Okay. I will second that motion. We have a motion, Mr. Renfro, that I second to deny the request. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed? Okay. That motion will fail. And we'll move on to number 9, Christopher.
All right, this is the final for Hawthorne Valley Phase 2. Again, this is requesting an extension. This is 80 lots. This is located off Archwood Valley. This is map 100, parcel 59. I'm going to read it. Some of the comments are the same. This is a fairly different scenario on this development. The applicant is requesting an extension to their final plat approval to allow additional time to record a final plat So they've already gotten past their preliminary plat and final plat approval for the development. Per TCA 13-3-413, a development is granted a vesting period of 3 years from the date of local approval for a preliminary development plan. A vested property shall submit a final plat to be considered within that 3-year period in order to keep vested rights current for said development. The Phase 2 final was granted approval in 2024. I don't have the exact time. I couldn't find that, which had extended this vesting period for an additional 2 years from the preliminary plat approval of May 20th, 2022. That 2024 approval date was done by court order. This board did deny that Phase 2 final. They filed suit against us, and that preliminary plat was approved per court order. To get a final plat recorded at the Register of Deeds, so that final plat would typically have to be recorded by May 20th of 2027. The developer at this time is requesting a 1-year extension to allow them up to May 20th, 2028 to get the final plat recorded. With the county. There is no language in the Wilson County County subdivision regulations to give staff the authority to grant extensions. However, the board may consider this per the TCA requirement. This development was required to do some infrastructure improvements along Central Pike. Those are, I would say, they are complete. To my knowledge, they were about 90%, but the developer stated they are completed at this point. It's the same request extension-wise, a little different scenario with where they're at in the development.
They are 2 years away from their rights ceasing, if I'm reading this right. May of 28.
No, that's where they want to be to. Right now, it's May of 27. So they're a year and 2 months out.
Okay, same. Mr. Griffin.
Hello again, Kyle Griffin, CSCD 2305 Klein Avenue. Very similar request on this one. The holdup on this site is the sewer. With the moratorium, no plats are being signed. We don't have any control over that. We don't know when they're going to release us. We're waiting on our sewer plans to be approved, which is contingent on Adenas, Wastewater Authority of Wilson County, and TDEC coming together and finalizing those improvements. So very similar situation here. I know the ship has sailed on the last one, but that sewer approval and the moratorium, all those sewer sites go to Low Road as well. So that was another reason for the extension request on the previous one. That's behind us. But on this one, the site is built. Phase 2 is paved, it's done, it's ready to go. We just can't start on the sewer install. The plans are approved by Jamie Reed's group at SEC for the Adena system. We're waiting on the state to sign off. We are stuck. We cannot do anything right now. So just ask for a little bit of grace here to extend that approval in case it's needed. We're hopeful that it's not. But again, we want to get ahead of this and not be acting retroactively when we're at the end of our life cycle. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak on this today? Anybody else wishing to speak on this?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Jeff Reed. I'm the attorney for LGI Homes. This is kind of a lot different situation than the last one you looked at. This subdivision is underway. The site work is done. The roads have been cut in. The water is in. We just can't get the sewer done because the state of Tennessee has not allowed any connections out there until they get the low road improvements done. So we're hung up due to Adenas and the wastewater authority. So if it wasn't for that, we would have the sewer in already. But by virtue of what's happening in the state that we have no control over, we cannot get the sewer installed. So that reason is the reason for the extension.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on this case today? Mr. Myers.
Yes, sir. So the sewer is going to run to Logue, and you're saying that the state is holding you up because of that? Typical. Exactly what we've been talking about. No infrastructure. It's amazing. That's all.
Thank you.
Actually, the sewer plans were approved once before. A modification of the sewer plans is what is still under review. We had the infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, do you have any guidance?
Well,
this is a different situation.
This is a different situation. I'll offer two suggestions, I guess, and one of them may be out there a little bit, but the first would be to consider this one in a different context from the other because of where they are. The things that's holding them up, they have no control over. But my other thought would be May of 27 is 14 months from now. Is this request too preliminary? Is this something that you might want to bring back this time next year for an extension? Just a thought.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any questions from our board?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Actually, it's for our wastewater authority sitting here. In your opinion, self-imposed moratorium, I heard state, but I think it's the self-imposed moratorium. Do you have an inclination whatsoever of when this release might work with these kind of properties that basically have designed it, but just can't make those connections and or complete their build?
Chris Luber, the Executive Director, Water and Wastewater Authority, Wilson County. There's two components here. You're talking about a self-imposed moratorium. So our Board of Commissioners had passed a resolution to approve any parcels of land to be considered for public sewer about 5 months ago for 6 months. That's what the term moratorium, I think you might be referring to. This tract of land was approved by our Board of Commissioners. Just kind of looked before I came over. Hawthorne Valley, so back actually in April 2000, years ago. So it's still approved.
2000?
That's correct. And that's not unusual as landowners are trying to work through these processes to look at developments, things like that. So the moratorium you're talking about has nothing to do with this. I think what Kyle is referring to is that we have to go through modifications in our state operating permits as we bring on more capacity. So Adinas is our master service provider, and they work with TDEC and the engineers to go through those modifications. When they do that, they bring on additional soils, et cetera, et cetera. The other component of it is TDEC has rules that they are to comply with, which includes inspecting the drip areas for these systems. And in that inspection, they are, by their rules, required to make a statement that the areas have been installed, treatment facilities, et cetera, the drip areas installed in accordance with the design engineers of the engineer of record. Our Board of Commissioners, a number of months ago, had passed a resolution that would, in order for me to sign a final plat, I need that documentation from TDEC. It's been obvious over the years, TDEC has not done those inspections at times. So I don't have that letter in my possession from TDEC, so I cannot sign that final plat until I get that letter from TDEC. And there's been communications with TDEC over that. They had an inspection out there, but there's no inspection, it was a number of years ago, that said it was installed in accordance with the engineer's design. So
What they're saying is true, it's the state?
Yeah, it's very true, absolutely. And the other piece they're working on too is anytime they have a change in their construction plans, they have to resubmit to TDEC to get their construction plans approved. And that's a path TDEC has taken very aggressive over the last couple of years. We see the same thing on the water side. So, my opinion, they're very valid in their request.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else, sir?
I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, when
hold on just
you ask for it.
I need to amend my,
Any other questions from our board?
I'm pivoting on to state law because it's going to supersede.
Mr. Young?
I can mention all that. I can. Yeah. I don't know.
Ken Young, 1221 Shop Springs Road. I didn't come here today on these projects, but as I sit there, I can't just sit here and listen to this without saying something. The permit modification wasn't submitted until the 10th of February. And if it goes out on a 30-day permit, the likelihood of the modification being approved so these guys can do their project wouldn't even happen till, late March, April at the earliest, and probably months and months and months later. So I don't know why it was only submitted now, but if they knew that there was a problem getting a permit for their sewer, that should have been done a long time ago. And if what Mr. Lieber says is true, that there's greater scrutiny because of what's happened here, then that should have been submitted. That's another reason it should have been submitted a long time ago. So I'm not sure why there's such a panic now to have an extension when the 10th of February was when it was actually submitted.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? Anybody else want to speak to these? Any questions, other questions from our board, I should say? Chris?
I need to just, because there's going to be conflicting things, I believe here. I am citing the TCA state law, which gives preliminaries, if they get approved within that 3-year period, an additional 2 years from the original preliminary plat approval. In our subdivision regulations, which I believe state law is going to supersede this, Mike, you can verify that. Our subdivision regulations currently state that you have to have a plat signed and recorded within 2 years of your approval. I don't think that would hold any weight anymore with the TCA statute that's come out investing, and that's where I'm citing the extension. So it may have been premature on the developers because we had exchanged emails in the past. They were under the understanding that it expired in March of 2026. Which would be this month. So that might be the reason. So you might want to have a conversation with them if they still need this extension, if they have out to March of 2027. But I do believe the state law vesting rights are going to supersede our subdivision regulations. I am in the process of updating those so everything flows coherently.
So state law says 2 years, our subdivision regulation says 3.
State law gives you an additional 2 years from your preliminary plat approval of 3 years. So they came in a year before their preliminary plat was going to expire, but they don't, like state law doesn't penalize them and say you have 2 years from that approval. It adds 2 years to your existing vesting criterion. So if you have 3 years to get it in and you come in on year 2, you don't shorten your vesting period to 4 years. You still get your full 5 years to get it recorded.
Based on everything you just said, you still stand by their approval is good through 27, May of 27.
Yes, all these dates on here are accurate. There may have been some miscommunication with the developer about when they thought their development expired, and you may want to ask him to come back up for that if they need the extension, if they do have vesting rights through 27.
Kyle, you want to speak to that?
Sure. So, a point of clarity, Christopher, is that the preliminary plat that is good through 27, through May of 27?
Your preliminary plat is good through 27 as long as you can continue to get final plats approved through this board. So, like your final plats, you have a final plat that's approved that was done by court order. You have till May of 27 to get that signed and recorded. If you want an additional plat, you have to get a final plat in before that May of 2027 if you have another phase. To keep that under the same vesting as your preliminary.
And you have the phase 2 and phase 3 final plats that were approved, both of them.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So if we're good till 27,
I would get an extension.
Based on?
Just in case. We are still pursuing a 1-year extension based on the sewer. We're hopeful they get it by May of 27, but it's out of our control.
And yours would be step system related, your guidance would be step system related. What you said.
Yeah, I mean, they can't sign them.
Well, I understand you can't. I understand. Okay. All right. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Any other questions from our board? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is in line with our jurisprudence, our attorney, Mr. Jennings. I like his second suggestion, and I don't know how long a defer would work, and I may be outstepping this, but to consider this in February of
14 months,
2027, and if they still have a need, then it won't matter if it's approved then to give them that extension to do that. But right now, I believe it's a little preliminary. I think we're getting like a perpetual precedent that may. So my motion is to defer it for 14 months. Well, whatever February.
Right on that.
I would. That's a long deferral.
Can I offer something to that?
Yes, sir.
I would propose we defer that till November of this year to give you time and them time to know where we're at, and we can make a good decision based on the facts as they come in as it pertains to your sewer. We should have more knowledge of what that's looking at by that time.
Motion
And it's still-
amended to that, sir.
So,
November.
so your motion is to defer the extension request till the November agenda,
Of 2026.
2026.
Yes, sir. So moved.
And I'll second that motion. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion will carry. Thank you. Are we down to plats for affirmation, Christopher?
Yeah. First plat for affirmation is a subdivision of the Jacob Benton property, 848 Cedar Grove Road, which is going to 2 lots being map 36 parcel 5. Second is subdivision of the William and Sharon Jolly property, which is 2 lots, located at 850 Riverview Road, being map 28, parcel 1703. The consolidation of Coles Ferry Camp, lots 139 through 144. This is taking 6 substandard lots and combining them into one. These lots also received variances for some lot size criterion because even with the 6 lots being consolidated, they are still going to be substandard per our existing zoning standards. They did receive those variances pending the approval of today on that plat. That's located at 675 Laga Vista Drive, being map 15N, Group B, Parcel 3. And then the last one is the amendment to the Walker Hills subdivision, Lot 18, Section 2, which is 1 lot located at 908 River Branch Court. All these have either met the corrections or are pending your review based off the BOZA cases. Staff can recommend approval of all affirmations.
All right, thank you, sir. Do we have anyone here wishing to speak on any of these cases?
That's 906 River Branch Court. He said 908.
Oh, I've got
906 on it.
I've got 906. I've got 906 written.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can't see.
I've got 906 written. I'm sorry.
Anyone else wishing to speak on any of these cases today? Seeing none, do we have any questions from our board? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve for Ms. Weathers, second, Mr. Renfro. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion will carry. We have a update.
You do have a legal update. I have 2 items regarding CECs. I can be moved to after public comment if you wish. I believe the legal update, I don't know. You'd have to ask him, Mike, if you want to do that before or after public comment.
You don't care, do you?
I don't care. We've got some folks here. We've got another lawyer here, an engineer here on that issue.
Do you want to move forward?
I'm ready to move forward, y'all.
That suits you, Christopher?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Let's do it.
Well, let me make a couple of comments here that I have to make. This is concerning a matter of pending litigation, and I'm going to need to meet with you privately to discuss the status of this matter, which we're allowed to do under the guidelines of the Smith County Education Association case from many, many years ago that says that governmental agencies can meet in what they call executive session to discuss the status of the lawsuit. We cannot take any votes and none will be asked for. But what we can do is I can tell you what the status is. You can ask me questions. And then if there's any action to be taken, we'll come back into session and the action will be taken at that time and discussion. But the purpose of going back here is for me to bring you up to date on where we are and what the issue is before you today.
So we need to vote to go out of session?
You have,
I'm sorry?
do you go out of session for that? Okay.
Yeah, we have to meet privately.
Yep.
Okay. I'll make a motion, we go out of session. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Weathers. All those in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposed? You ready, Mike?
Yep, we're going in the back room.
Started back. I will need a motion to go back into session. Have a motion for Ms. Weathers to approve. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Noakes. We'll be back in session. Mayor Jennings.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met pursuant to the guidelines of the Smith County Education Association Act in executive session to discuss the Century Communities of Tennessee versus Wilson County lawsuit that's pending in Chancery Court. It's a petition for writ of certiorari. We talked about the status of it. Several of you asked good questions about the status and what this means and what that means. No votes were asked for, none were taken. And that's when the questioning was over, we came out and have come back into session now. So let me be pretty straightforward with you. This is a lawsuit, as I said, Century Communities of Tennessee versus Wilson County. This is actually the Parkside development that was in front of y'all in October of 2025. It was here on a sketch plan. You heard a lot of public comment that day, and at the conclusion of the comment, you denied the sketch plan with an affirmative vote. I think it may have been 7-3, I'm not sure, but you denied that. Then the lawsuit was filed. Mr. Tom White is here representing them. Let me kind of cut to the chase here and tell you what is alleged that was not done properly. Hang on a second, I had it right out here. The initial sketch plan, the position of the plaintiff does not require a traffic study or stormwater management engineering analysis at the sketch plan step. But part of the basis, I think, that day for denying that was because there was not a traffic study or stormwater proof. So we have a proposal from them to resolve this case at this level. And the three parts of this are, and let me say, this is going to come back to you at some point in time. You're going to get a chance from preliminary, whether it comes back from the court or whether it comes back after your action today. But the three parts of the proposal of that is, we would agree, the Planning Commission, to set aside the denial of the sketch plan, and it would be affirmed at that level, at the sketch plan. So you would not revisit the sketch plan level. All issues, this is the second part, all issues raised at the Planning Commission hearing would have to be fully addressed, defined in discussion of a preliminary to the planner's approval before presented for a vote. In other words, when you get to the preliminary level, you're going to have this information that's going to have to be presented to you, okay? And then the third thing would be the one-year period to put those into effect would begin with the date of the agreement settlement. So the issue before you today, quite simply, although things are never really quite simple, but from my mind, I try to get them as simple as I can, is whether or not you want to accept that proposal and resolve the lawsuit with the knowing that a preliminary plan is going to come back on this in the future, or whether the lawsuit proceeds and most likely the preliminary plan comes back to you in the future.
Can I ask Mr. White or Mr. Wright one?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Will y'all commit, Mr. White or Mike, whoever it is, to providing us with a traffic study and a flood and stormwater management plan at the time of preliminary plat?
So you said stormwater management plan.
Or engineering, I'm sorry.
So
whatever you want to call that.
Full-blown engineering, are you suggesting like all the storm sewer on the site plus all the, or are you talking about a more generalized analysis of what needs to be done on the property?
Christopher, would you weigh in here if you don't?
I believe it would be almost like a no-rise, similar to that creek that's there, because there is flooding issues over Stewart's Ferry Pike. I think it would be qualified with like an H&H study there of the existing conditions versus the proposed, is what I believe is kind of what you're asking. So it'd be an H&H study of existing conditions and then the H&H proposal is what I...
Client's indicating that, yes, we can do that. Client's fine with it.
Yeah.
And the traffic study.
And the traffic.
And we'll have both of those before we consider the preliminary plan.
And Chairman, if I might, Tom White, I appreciate the time to address the board today. And at the end of the day, I've spent some time both with Mike Jennings and with your good planner about the result here. And frankly, it's a pretty simple matter in that a sketch plan requires certain things to be done at that level. It was turned down on things that really didn't have to be turned in as a sketch plan. They've absolutely got to be done on the preliminary plat, which is what you're talking about. So all this does is basically sets aside what was denied and says, Tom White, your clients have got to take care of the traffic study and the water study, which we just discussed, we made the commitment to. We've got to do that to the objective satisfaction of this same body. So all it does is basically do what I think Chancellor Smith is going to do, and that is say that we met the sketch plan approvals. Now we've got to do the preliminary plat. We got 1 year to do that. We've got a capable engineer who's committed to you to do that. So I'm respectfully asking that you approve what's been proposed. I have discussed this with Christopher in advance. He's here. He can tell you he supports that as a good resolution and that he recognizes the sketch plan approval met the conditions. That's it. We'll answer any questions, but I think it's really somewhat of a non-event because we've got to come back on the very things that you want. I respect this commission for wanting those things, as you just addressed. We'll do those, but that's time for the preliminary plat, not the sketch plan. That's the difference. And I think your attorneys probably said that to you in chambers, but we appreciate your courtesies. We respectfully ask for your approval of what's been suggested. I'm committing for my client, including what Mike Rye has just said, that they would do those things, and we will do everything we can to satisfy those conditions so we don't get approved on the preliminary plat. It's that simple. Thank you for your courtesies.
Mike, would you read that off one more time, just the part, what you're asking us to do?
Yeah, if you are, the issue is, do you want to settle the lawsuit that has been filed against us from the denial of the sketch plan for Parkside subdivision on this basis? Planning Commission agrees to set aside the denial of the sketch plan and approve the sketch plan, but only the sketch plan. You've heard Tom, Mr. White, and Mr. Rye both say what they're willing to do at preliminary. The second thing is all issues which were raised at the Planning Commission hearing would have to be fully addressed in discussion of a preliminary to the planner's approval before presented for a vote. That confirms what they've confirmed that this afternoon now, I guess. The third thing is the one-year period to put these into effect would begin with the date of the agreement settlement. In other words, the preliminary would be back to you within a year. If not, they'd have to start over.
Okay.
So that's the decision is to either approve that or not.
I will call for a motion from our board as to what Mayor Jennings has recommended to us, sir, or proposed to us, I'm sorry.
Well, motion to go with Mr. Jennings' recommendation.
And I will second that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Opposed.
That motion will pass 8-1, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. We'll submit exactly as we're supposed to. Thank you for, I know it's a non-paying job. Thank you for your time.
Sorry you had to wait so long today, sir. Christopher, did you have another thing you wanted to talk about?
I just have additional information regarding continuing education. I can either do all that now, or if you want to wait until after public comment, I can do it then.
Let's get that.
I do have, there's two things regarding continuing education. I do have a scheduled meeting for this board. It is April 23rd from 3 to 4:30 p.m. It'll be right here in this room. This is planning commissioners only. Your speaker will be Sam Edwards. He's going to speak on the grounds and legitimacy of making a motion, and ex parte communication is going to be the topic of that meeting. Again, that is April 23rd from 3 to 4:30. That is the week after your April Planning Commission, so I will remind you of that date again when it gets closer to that time. And then there's another continuing education credit. This would only be available to Mr. Neal. CTAS and MTAS are putting on it's a Planning Commissioner Academy is what they're calling it. It's for newly appointed representatives, and I can get, if you're interested in that, I'm more than happy to get you that information to get in touch and maybe sign up for that. And the only reason Mr. Neal's the only one qualified, they've only got 30 seats available, but they're limiting it to planning commissioners that have less than 2 years of appointment under their belt. That would most likely cover all of your CECs for this year if you choose to do that, but you're still more than welcome to attend all the ones that we host here in the county as well. That one would be specific to Mr. Neal, but your first one on the schedule will be April 23rd with Speaker Sam Edwards. And then I've got, before everybody leaves after we adjourn, I do need to ask kind of a vague question.
Okay. State law does mandate we give the public 3 minutes to speak to us, or an opportunity to speak to us. We do limit those to 3 minutes. Anybody have anything they want to talk to us about today? Mr. Young.
Ken Young, 1221 Shop Springs Road. I've talked to Chris about this a little bit, and my interest is in the 8 signatories on a final plat. somewhere in the cascade of events, there needs to be a perjury box warning so that what they're saying is supportable. So they you just tap the brakes, think for a second. Before I sign this document, I want to make sure that what I'm signing is true and supportable. That's number one. And the other reason is that would assist the district attorney in prosecution. So I don't know where this goes in this cascade, whether it's a separate attestation sheet or it goes on some of the preliminaries, but in the end, when you end up with a final plan with signatures saying what they've done, I think it would be valuable to have somewhere before then them taking a look at that box.
Yep. Yeah, and Mr. Young and I have talked about that. I'm gonna do a little bit more research to see if other jurisdictions have some of that. There's not a ton of that knowledge out there. It'd just be an additional check and balance that we implement in some form or fashion. I'll just have to figure out if there's a way for us to legally do that.
It's similar to the form revision to get an audience before you, to begin with. You might recall about 6 months or so ago, we put a perjury box on the form for a subdivision or rezone.
Yeah, and he's stating our internal applications, that's not something the board voted on, but we did add it's, I don't know the exact language, but the signee, it states below their signature that they are signing with the intent that they are the property owner, have written confirmation that they can represent this case on their behalf under the full penalty of the law, if they're deemed perjuring that.
That's an analog to this. It's the same purpose, to prevent something from happening and to assist in prosecution.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak to us today?
Can you give me a second?
Maybe.
Maybe. Just sets it up. Working at minimum wage.
My name is Perry Neal, 1000 Murphy Lane. If I can read this here, I want to read this real briefly. I stole this, like all my ideas. I had to steal it from somebody else. I'm not very original, so I didn't come up with this. So, but anyway, I feel like this was fitting describing myself. So, you really only have two choices. Try to shape where you live and work into something you're proud of and something you want to leave for the next generation, or let it be shaped by others and live with the results. If we do what we've always done, we're going to continue to get what we've always got. And I'm referring about the land use plan here. I handed out some pictures. You guys may have already put them up, but I handed out a couple of pictures there and put on your desk. My concern is the rural living, and that would be this dark brown area. This happens to be in the east end of the county where I live. There's approximately 20,000 acres right here. By definition, the rural living says it can have a density where it can have up to one house on 1 acre. That will not fit in current A1 zoning. So at some point in time to allow that, and I feel like at some point in time it's probably going to be in front of a judge to allow that if you guys deny it or if the county commissioners deny a rezoning to R1. At some point in time it may be in front of a judge. And so when it gets in front of a judge, he's going to say, well, what was the intent of the land use plan? What was the intent? I don't know. The intent says you can have one house on 1 acre. I think that would be pretty clear what that intent would be. And I think today's been a good example. Is the Gladeville area, you see what happens when you get R1 zoning with all the subdivisions. And that's my concern. My concern is in my backyard, which is this area of 20,000 acres, predominantly A1 zoning, 99% of it's probably A1 zoning. I feel like the current land use plan, the way it's worded right now, is going to open the door for lawsuits in future R1 zoning. I've got a mark right here, kind of on the very tail end. That is I think this is Commerce Road right here. That's the border of this. That is the Commerce Church of Christ. from that right here to where we're standing today is a little less than 14 miles. Do we want to open up this whole corridor for subdivisions and let that be the next Gladeville when it comes to subdivisions and development? 14 miles from right here to where we're sitting at this courthouse. You know, this dark brown is a higher residential density than the light brown. Why do we have a higher residential density out here at 14 miles than we do right here at the edge of the town, or the edge of the urban growth boundary that's on Hartsville Pike? Is Hartsville Pike not a better road to have higher residential density than the roads in the pictures that you've seen there? This road you've seen there in those pictures is Tracy Lane. Tracy Lane is pretty much right in the middle of this. There's Turner Road, there's Bobo Lane. There's miles and miles of roads that look just like that. And I come in for you because you guys, the steering committee, I believe, is pretty much through with the land use plan. You guys are the only ones left. Y'all can either adopt the existing steering use plan as they've got it written, or you guys could amend it and do some changes and rewrite it. And I'm just asking you guys, as you go forward the next 2 to 3 months, to be open-minded to making changes on the existing land use plan that's coming out of the steering committee. Just be open-minded to making changes, and don't just say, well, they've already done all the homework on this. They've already done their due diligence. We're just going to rubber stamp it and go on. Because I think there's some real concerns with opening up 20,000 acres right here for what I feel like will ultimately be R1 zoning. And we'll have, you know, we see what, today was a great example of what happens when you have R1 zoning. You end up with subdivisions. I've got one more comment right here, then I'll be about through. The steering committee and GNRC has done a lot of work about engaging the community. It says right here, this is from GNRC, this is not my work. Thousands of citizens and stakeholders participated in the process to ensure that Plan Wilson represents the aspirations and the priorities of the community. If I could be a spokesman for my community, that does not represent the will of our community out there. But anyway, if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If not, thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Christopher, you got anything else, sir?
No.
You said?
No.
Oh, okay. No. All right, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you, guys.